It's that time again, the day before earnings. Now, of course, there's one more day of trading before during Monday, but this is the quick version of my earnings preview for Palantir. And this is also an easier way for me to think about the good or bad outcomes at a high level. And this is more towards the narrative, just so you know. Now, I've already covered the comprehensive earnings preview when you look at the numbers last week, so check that out when you have a chance. And this is more of a discussion on that big narrative plays that will be surrounding Palantir, especially at a time like this when their market cap and valuation in relation is being a hot topic as well. Now, the elephant in the room first, everyone knows the price they're at now signifies future growth more than what has already hit the paper officially. This is not new news to anyone, of course, who's been following for a while, but mechanically, it just means whatever we have seen officially on the numbers like revenue growth, profitability, all those things and those ratios. But throughout history, this happens to companies where there is that narrative and qualitative aspect too that can't be signified in the numbers yet. And that's the big question. When is that going to actually grow into it? But the expectations, of course, for growth are coming down the line when you see numbers like this. Hence, Palantir being in the time and place that we are, and personally, I obviously lean towards that with my opinion on their products, team, mission, the types of clients, everything, that it is set up in a way to do so, at least there's some percentage of that happening. But there are also those who don't believe it in varying degrees, of course, some completely not at all, some maybe they'll hit it just a little, or they believe it in some lesser degree that, oh, they'll do good, but just not as good, and that's fine. But just do as you deem fit, especially around entry and exit points, or just continuous buy and hold if that's your style. I am curious though to know how you're handling this, and let me know in the comments down below. Now, with that out of the way, the big narrative right now is just artificial intelligence and Palantir's role in being a major player or minor player to some, and if they're even the true only AI player at least in the space that they're in. And that's when it comes to the operationalization of AI. And I think people understand that they're not building LLMs or large language models, and they really shouldn't be their main focus too, concerning their investment and time and money that has gone into the competitors being built and continuously improved upon today's models. But Palantir and the ontology allows companies who want to leverage these in a safe and secure way first, so their experience from government, and to do so with their data with the mitigation of hallucinations. And that's with the ontology. This allows the quote-unquote true picture of all the data, as well as the relationship between these points to fully be understood, and that the levers at play at the company. Now, if something happens in data silo 1, how does this move in data silo 2? But obviously this is at more scale throughout the whole ontology. So the big thing with this earnings though is Palantir actually going to see improved business because of this AI wave. Are we seeing at the very, very top, are boot camps or build.palantir.com signups going up? Or does management just see that much more activity? And that one clue from Microsoft too recently where the API usage is up and can be a clue. But then numbers wise, are there actual customers lining up here and willing to sign up and pay for these products for Palantir? So a real contract and a real deal where even if it's very small, this gives Palantir a real opportunity to prove themselves and potentially embed themselves to expand later on. And then finally, actual revenue going up where it matters. Now, we know government is kind of the opportunity that has to prove itself to the sleeping giant where it may balloon up or stay still. But commercial wise, we are curious to see a trend starting. Do we see growth getting faster and faster? Not necessarily the, constant 20% growth, which is, pretty good as numbers get bigger, but that will bring into question the first point of the valuation and if they deserve it. But is it going to be back up to the 20s, 30s, and maybe even beyond that down the line if things get really successful? And you also have to remember over time that assumption is your baseline of that calculation is going up, hence that exponential level that people see. So technically it does get harder to grow faster since you need that much more. Like 20% of 100 million is just way smaller than 20% of 300 million. You get the picture. So that's my perspective on what has to go well in the coming quarters, not necessarily all of that has to happen right now in the next quarter. I'd say in the immediate, like Q2, it's mostly still focused on customer counts and the higher level unofficial numbers of boot camps or whatever Palantir is willing to disclose. But what are your thoughts still below? And I'll see you in the next video.